Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Shining Light video podcast show where I shine a light on my amazing guests and the positivity they're spreading in their communities. Speaking of positivity, we are doing a really great job in building out our Pedal for Purpose fundraiser. This is a really great ride that we have here in the Hudson Valley. We're going to be riding from Poughkeepsie, New York, down to New York City. And if you don't know the distance on that, I'll tell you, it's 90 miles. We're going to be riding our bikes in 1 day's time on May 31st. So check out Pedal for Purpose. It's right here on my website, also in all of my social medias. We're looking to raise $30,000 for Forgotten Children of Haiti. We'll share more about that later on. But now I want to jump into manifesting. I want to jump into discovering our inner selves and how when we bring those emotions out, how we're able to manifest that into the world, into our successes. And how can I talk about this without one of the experts in this field, the author in this field, my new friend, Randy Lemon. Lyman, sorry about that. New friend, I can't even say his last name. New friend, and I can't even say his last name. Come on, people. That's what happens with new friends. We're learning about each other.
We don't talk to each other in our last name. We talk to each other in our first name, Michael.
That's right. We're learning about each other here. So, Randy, you wrote this new book, The Third Element, and this book is a powerful book, and it's all about emotional intelligence. And so, my question for you is, what inspired you to write this book and share it with the world?
Well, for so many years, half my life, I looked at the world from a place of working hard and being smarter so I could find success and happiness. Well, I found success, but I didn't find happiness and fulfillment until I met a woman who changed my perspective. And she helped me see the world from an emotional, more humanistic point of view. And I learned how to clear out my own emotional wounds, be more familiar with my own emotions. And that brought me a lot more success, brought me better relationships and better health. And so now what I'd like to do is share what's helped me so much with the rest of the world, because so much of the world, they want more, but they're not sure what to do. And there aren't very many good guides as to how we really manifest. And in the book, I break it all down. I take it a level beyond what everybody else has for the most part. And I get into how emotions interact with the law of attraction. And when we're clear in our emotions, then our thoughts are more effective and our actions are more effective, and we can create a better life.
One of the things I think we need to dispel before we go any further, because otherwise we're going to lose you. We're going to lose you. I know you're listening and watching right now, and I don't want to lose you here, because I know when we get into the woo-woo world, we start wondering, but how is this really going to happen in my workplace? And so before we do that, let's dispel some of this. So in this book, do you go into really how this applies in real world settings?
Absolutely. So I'm 63 now. When I was 28, I got started in this. So for 35 years, I've been looking at the world this way. Well, before I got started, I'm a physicist, I'm an engineer, I'm a business person, I'm a logical guy. I still am emotions last in my response to things. Now, in my process, I say, okay, what is the emotional issue? How do I work through that? But in the book, I describe it from a logical, reasonable approach. I get all the way down to quantum physics level with simple models and stories that are really fun to read. And so this is a very logical approach to how our emotions interact with the law of attraction and how we can change our life to interact differently with the world through just a few small changes and some exercises I outline in the book. We can find a lot more success.
Yeah, there's a study that in a book that I'm currently reading that does a study on fleas. Are you familiar with the flea study in the jar?
I'm not.
So fleas are able to jump over 150 times their size. And these scientists put them all in a jar and put a cover on it. And pretty much they lived out the rest of their life in this jar. When they removed the cover, these fleas were not able to jump out of the jar. So they were no longer able to jump to their full potential. And what happened is their offspring was also limited to that small amount, that small height of jumping. So just by in their minds of no longer being able to go 150 times their size, they stopped trying to go to that level. And therefore their offspring had the same limiting belief in their mind. I bring this up because when we're talking about dispelling these ideas of manifesting and law of attraction, we have to understand too that this is scientific. We can see it with the old adage that Tony Robbins uses with the elephant to the stick. When they remove the stick, the elephant doesn't go anywhere. All these limiting beliefs that we create in our minds are there, and also can be dispelled and unraveled. And I think that's some of the work that you do in this book and in your life. And so, all that being said, in working with other CEOs and other business owners, what's the biggest challenge that you see in bringing emotional intelligence into the workplace?
Well, I've shared this information and work with people at all levels, including CEOs. And the challenge that everybody has, the challenge that I had is when I'm going to open that Pandora's box to my emotions, it's scary because I know I've got some fears and some worries and some anger and disappointment. And here's the key, in order to reach the joy and the bliss and deeper connections with our family and friends, we have to be open to all of our emotions. And in the book, I talk about how we can become comfortable with even our negative emotions. And the CEOs I've worked with, especially, they find a lot more success once they can show up more calm, more confident, without worry, and they can show up as their authentic self and be more vulnerable. Now, that's something we can get into on a whole nother level at some other time, if you like. But when we can lead from a place of vulnerability, when our power does not come from our title, then people love working with us and they follow us and we accomplish more. And that's what I really want to spread throughout the world.
So when you say the word vulnerable, it's funny because that's exactly where I was going to go next with all of this. That's when we talk about emotional intelligence. Vulnerability is the thing. To me, it's like what unlocks the door. If we can be vulnerable, that's what unlocks the door. I know for me as a speaker, when I first got started in the speaking world, I joined Toastmasters. I'm still a Toastmaster today. When I first got started in the speaking world, I would go up and I would give my speeches. And I was practicing. I was getting better at giving speeches. I was rehearsing. I had really good scripts, let's call them, right? And I remember my mentor saying to me, she said, Michael, you're doing a great job, right? You got the tonality, you got the vocal variety, you're making the eye contact, you got the gestures, you're doing it all, right? You're doing all the right things, but you're not connecting. And I went, what do you mean, Linda? Linda Grace Farley, shout out to you. I go, what do you mean, Linda? She goes, you're not connecting. You're not connecting with me. You're not connecting with the audience. And I said, what's missing? She goes, you're not being Michael. I go, I'm thinking about this and I'm going, yes, I am. It's my script. It's my story. It's my words. I'm going up there. And she goes, you're not being vulnerable. And I was like, whoa. Now that hit me when she talked about that, because she wasn't saying be vulnerable, like share your deepest, darkest secrets. She was talking about being vulnerable, of being like honest with my feelings in this moment, being present. So when we think about vulnerability, it's not about just like sharing, unloading your dark secrets.
Right.
It's about being present with people. And so to me, when I think about your book, I'm wondering how your book and the work that you do within the book is changing the lives of the people that are reading it and the people that you're working with.
Well, the strongest leaders are strong enough to show up vulnerable. And when we are vulnerable, then people can feel safe and they hear us. And so the people I work with who are able to work through their own worries and doubts, see, our emotions are there under the surface, whether we want to realize it or not. We can be in our head and forget about what we feel. But when we walk into a room, people feel us. And so when we're aware of our worry, we're aware of our fears, and we can address them. We don't have to address them in the moment with the people we're working with, but just being aware of them then allows us to separate our rational thoughts and our intention from the underlying emotions that get in the way. And when I work with people and I was able to show up, once I learned to show up without being worried about what people thought of me, without being worried about being liked or respected, and to really share some of my failures, even some of my smaller failures with people, then they said, oh, wow, Randy is real. I can be real. Randy shared some of his failures. I don't have to be afraid of failing. I don't have to have fear of failing. Then they show up 100% and I get a better team and we accomplish so much more.
Yeah. That showing up vulnerable, being authentic, and like you said, sharing some of your failures, making you a real person is so important in terms of leadership. I think of the ego. I just see the ego right now as just like this big glass container. And when we take vulnerability, it's like the hammer that just shatters it. to where it just unlocks it all and the potential for our teams.
Well,
Obviously,
can I respond to that?
yeah.
So people say the ego has to die. The ego's not going to die. It doesn't have to die, but it can learn to partner with two different parts of ourselves: our higher self, our connection with all that is, and we do that through our intuition. And I walk through that in the book, how to do that and how I experimented with that and learned to do that. And then we also connect with our inner child. Now, people think, well, why should I have a child inside of me? Well, because that's joy and creativity and a lot of wonderful things in our life. For me, my inner child loves to go off road and ride my motorcycle. Okay, so when we connect, when our ego can partner with our higher self and our inner child, then it can change its approach. It doesn't have to be in control all the time. It can learn to take guidance from that creative self. It can learn to take guidance from our higher self, and then the pressure on the ego goes away. So it doesn't have to die. It just has to surrender to the process and build a partnership. And that's where we really become a better leader, is when we have that full partnership.
Yeah, I think that's that quiet confidence. It's when you can walk in a room feeling fully confident of yourself, but you're not in a way where you're putting anybody off or thinking anyone less than. I love the inner child piece that you just brought up there. I just did a session with, I don't think she's a therapist, but somewhat of a therapist, where I connected with my inner child and really had my inner child come in and ask him some questions. Ask him what he needs and ask him what he's looking for and what he wants to accomplish. And also got a chance for my inner child to speak with me. And it's very deep work. It's you have to be very open to this kind of work. But it was huge for me. It was very helpful. And so I'm curious, in terms of the work that you do. We're in a 15-minute show here. There's not much time. I know that your work is transformational, and I know that meeting with people like you, and I've done it along the way too. There's powerful questions. There's small little exercises that we can pick up just from a 15-minute video like this that's transformational. That'll change our lives and get people to read your book and reach out to you for some coaching. So I'm curious if there's any little tool or trick or experience that you might be able to share with our audience today.
Absolutely. Take a breath before responding. Don't react. Slow down. We're always in a hurry as leaders. We're always in a hurry. We don't have to be, because we want to do what's right instead of do things quickly. And I still like to do things quickly, but I always want to do it right. So I take a breath and I think, feel my body and think, what am I feeling? Is this a worry? Is this confidence? Where am I at? Now, if I can't deal with that emotion in the moment, at least I'm aware of it. Now I can walk into the situation being more present and being more effective. And so that breath makes a big difference. And people may laugh at it, but try it. And you don't have to do it right. You just have to be aware of how it feels to breathe in our body and what the feels like. And then we become aware and we move to a whole nother level of awareness and observation and effectiveness when we do that. And again, I cover that in the book.
Absolutely. I'll ask you a leading question here. Who do you think has more emotional control, an adult with some of these tools or a child with no tools at all? Leading question.
Oh, that's a great question.
The obvious one.
But here's the thing. The first half of our life, we push aside. We come in born. We're completely pure and emotional. We learn to adapt to our environment and our family. We lose that. We use that lack of emotion to find success. And then we say, wait a minute, I'm not fulfilled. Now it's time in my life to connect with my emotions, become aware of them, master my emotions, and live a more fulfilled life at a deeper level. That's the best answer I can give you in a short period.
But you know what? And that's a great answer, by the way. And that's a wonderful, there's a lot to take from that. But I was actually asking that leading question just to support your work into deep breath.
Oh, okay.
and maybe that's my fault for not giving you that context. And what I'm saying there is, the question was who do you think has a better response in this? Somebody who has a little bit of the tools and technique of this work, that's an adult, or a child with none of this. And here's my quick answer, and I think you might agree with this, is of course the child, right? Like this work, they don't know any of this stuff, right? So in terms of their emotions, they can't control them, right? I'm saying this leading question for everybody to hear this is that I work with kids, in that I coach a basketball team. I have young children. They're 7 and 10 years old. I coach their basketball team. And those girls, and we talk about emotional regulation, when they're emotional, they're like, we're in competition, and I had a girl, she's crying on the court. I had to call a timeout for her, bring her over. What's the first thing I had her do? take a deep breath. I had her take a deep breath in.
There you go.
And right there, I was able to connect with her and say, okay, here's what you're doing. That's great. Keep doing that. Here's what you just need to back off of. The tears stopped rolling down. I've done this with our kids in different coaching settings. I'm talking about almost every time that they're crying, and almost every time it's like the magic touch. And parents have said that to me. You have the magic touch. I don't have the magic touch. I'm just telling your kid to do a deep breathing exercise. And so the reason why I bring this up to support your work is if a kid who isn't trained in emotional regulation and is not there yet, and to your point that you made earlier, doesn't have the life experiences yet, hasn't learned the tools yet to get to where we are currently today, can do it in that moment of a deep breath, then you watching right now, you listening right now to what Randy just said, you can do it. That deep breath is going to work for you, right?
It is so powerful. It is so easy. We just don't try it. And even myself, sometimes I forget it, but it's the most powerful, simple tool there is.
It's incredible. I mean, Wim Hof breathing, all the rest, but you take that deep breath, you connect, and you are able to make clearer, better decisions. You wrote this book. Obviously, it comes out of a lifelong passion and work that you've been doing. It's experiences that you've brought into the world. And so what I'm curious on is when you look ahead, impact is what the foundation of my business is. I want to create a positive impact in the world. What impact do you see this book having on your community and all of the people it serves?
When leaders understand how emotions interact with our world down to the deepest level, which again, I explained, then they are then willing to explore emotional healing and release of the negative they're hanging on to. And when they do that, they show up more authentic and they build better teams, and we can just accomplish so much more when we are compassionate and caring with each other, and when we understand how to lead from a place of being of service to those we lead, and people respond to that. And as that starts to snowball in our environment, in our community, and around the world, then life just gets better for everybody. And that's the goal.
I love that goal. And what stuck there for me, and I have one more question for you about this. I have my own thoughts on this, but I want to hear yours, is releasing negativity. That right there, I know is a challenge for many. It's a challenge for myself. It's a challenge for so many. I know the tools that I use, and I speak about them on my other show, but I'd be curious to know what are maybe the top 2 or 3 tools or exercises or habits or rituals that you have or that you use in order to help release some of those negative thoughts or that negative energy in your space.
In addition to breath work, the first tool I go to is journaling. I sit down and I write down. It doesn't have to be fancy, doesn't have to be anything, but scribble out what's bothering me. And if I can also add to that what I'm feeling, that takes me one step closer to the release. Walking just in nature. If I'm stuck in a city and I'm walking and I see a flower pot, or I see a flower or a weed growing in a crack in the sidewalk, I can say, wow, this is beautiful. This is God and life coming through and showing itself to me. And there's several other things that I outline in the book. EFT tapping is really effective for me as well. And that's one that I actually do that in the appendix and go through that. So it's not complicated. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. It doesn't have to cost money. It takes intent, and it takes the willingness to dive into releasing that emotional pain, addressing it, feeling it completely, and releasing it. And that's what it takes.
Yeah, and scientifically, it's been proven just expressing gratitude has released cortisol and brought in dopamine and done all of these crazy chemical movements in our bodies. That's really, really incredible to learn about and find out that just simply, like you said, seeing that little weed growing and showing gratitude for everything around us can really change our mindsets. As I said, this has been wonderful getting to know you, getting to meet you today. Newfound fast friends. I mean, anybody in that spiritual guided world, this world where we know that there's this inner potential just to come out of us. It's always a wonderful connection. I mean, I got my salt lamp back there. There's no way you and I aren't connected. So this has been awesome. I always like to give my guests maybe a final word, a final message that you might want to share with our audience today. So Randy, I give that to you.
Well, thank you. My message is we don't have to do it perfectly. We set our intent and we start down the path, and for everybody, it's a different path. And people can find my book and find some fun exercises and some free stuff, as well as connections to other resources on my website, randylyman.com. And just have fun with it. It's going to be challenging at times, but I can tell you every single challenge we go through, it's worth it because our life gets better on the other side. And that's what life is about, is improving our life and showing up more authentic and being present for everyone around us.
I love that. I love that. Yes. And you can get his book. We will make sure to have all of his links in our comments here on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on YouTube. Make sure to get your copy of the book. It's pretty cool when you get to watch a show and get the author's book. So cool to have you on the show today.
I forgot to mention, the book is The Third Element. I was in a hurry. I should have a copy with me today, but The Third Element, it'll be out in just a few weeks. You're going to love it.
The Third Element. It's actually there's a picture of it right on the website as homepage. It's also on his LinkedIn profile. You can't miss it. It's going to be in bookstores all over, but get your copy. Just go to his website, pre-order it today. That is The Third Element. Learn how to unlock your inner potential, everyone. This has been the Shining Light Video Podcast Show, where I come to you live every Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing amazing guests just like Randy here today, sharing and spreading positivity in our world. If you'd like to be a part of our community, our Take Action community has been growing tremendously. We meet every second Wednesday of the month at 11 a.m. Eastern Time via Zoom. Our next one is March 12th, and we have a really, really great speaker coming in. He's going to be sharing great strategies there, but also join us on March 12th at our Take Action community. It's free, everyone. It's a workshop. There's a hot seat. You're going to learn some stuff. I want to thank you for joining us today. This has been the Shining Light Video Podcast Show. Randy, thanks for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun, Michael.
Stay happy and stay healthy, everyone, and we'll see you soon.